Okay, we are live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And for those listening back, thank you as well. Tonight, we're joined by a man who has spent decades walking the thin line between hope and hard evidence. John Leccese is a former police detective and currently a private investigator who doesn't just look at files, he steps into the lives of the missing. Known for his exhaustive work on the Charles Allen Jr. case and countless others, John brings a unique perspective on what happens when the trail goes cold. John, welcome to Locating the Lost.
Good evening. How are you?
Doing well. I should say Jeff could not join us tonight, but Danielle once again has stepped in to help me out, so I appreciate that, Danielle.
Of course. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Danielle.
Hello. Very nice to meet you.
Same here.
So, John, if you wouldn't mind, can you let the viewers know? Tell us a little bit about your past, what your prior life, and then your current life, what you're up to.
Well, as far as my occupation, I was a police officer from 1975 to 1980 in the town of Stoneham, Massachusetts. I was assigned to detectives in 1980 to my retirement in 2002. Actually, 2003. So I got 23 years assigned to detectives, and the rest of the time I was a patrolman. I actually got my PI license a year before I retired from the police department. I checked with the Ethics Commission in Boston. They said that was fine. I said, I'll tell you what, I won't do any cases in Stoneham, and I won't take any criminal cases. They said, that's great, that's fine. So I've been a private investigator. We don't like to use private, it's professional investigator to the current.
Okay. So how has that been for you? It seems like you probably have a lot of contacts. Has that helped with your investigative services?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 23 years in detectives, you work with many departments, and
right.
You have good rapport. There's always one or two detectives you're close with after working certain cases that where the venue was maybe in your town as well as their town. Maybe the subjects from their town and a bank robbery happened in your town, so you both work on it together. Particularly in Woburn, Mass, some of the guys there, detectives, they were excellent. We solved a lot of cases together. What we also did, my sergeant, he began having detective meetings from the Northeast Massachusetts area. And it turned out much bigger than that. And we had feds, we had state, we had banks, fraudulent check associations, and people would show up with information. They put it on the screen and say, anybody know this guy? And you had three guys raise their hand. That's so-and-so. That's Joe Smith from, East Overshoe, and solved many, many cases. It was all about communication.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always at least one or two guys that were hustlers in every town. The towns that surrounded us, Stoneham, Medford, Wakefield, Melrose, Woburn, we had good contacts. And like I said, we work on informants. So everybody has their informants, and it solves cases. So you need to have that communication. The guy 2 towns away could have the answer to your crime, and if you don't communicate, you don't know.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest differences now compared to, say, the 70s, when it was harder to communicate to other jurisdictions. There could have been, a body found 2 towns over that you're looking for someone, right?
Absolutely. It's all about, that's why it goes out on the computers now with the different police departments. Whether it's called Bolo, be on the lookout for so-and-so. We have this case, and it's up to the police to make it known to the patrolmen and detectives what's the dispatchers and so forth, what's coming in. So it's up to them to spread the news.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit about the disappearance of Charlie Allen Jr. and how you got involved with the case?
Well, I was a retired police detective. I had me had my PI license for 3 or 4 years, and a friend and colleague of my wife, they worked at the elementary school together. She knew that I was a private investigator and had experience as a police detective. She mentioned to my wife, geez, my nephew is missing, Charlie Allen. So my wife says, I'll mention it to my husband. He might be able to help you. So she came home and said, yeah, tell so-and-so that, if the parents are interested, I'm not going to push myself on them. If they're interested, have them call me. Let's see a police investigation. But if they're not happy or whatever, they can contact me and, pro bono, I won't charge them anything. See what I can do. So he went missing October 12th, 2007. I was contacted a few months later by Charlie Allen Sr., Charlie's dad.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was on. I started bringing in guys I knew that would be a big help to me. And we started preparing for a big search, as well as investigating different avenues. Again, the police aren't going to tell us what they do, but, I know what has to be done.
Right.
I did it for 27 years. So I started doing that. As far as we knew, from what I learned from the police detective, was that he was never arrested. So I'm looking for fingerprints. We got a missing person, looking for prints and photographs of whatever they have. So they said he wasn't never arrested. And I said, okay. So I talked to the dad. I said, geez, he was never grabbed for anything. He goes, well, actually, he says a town in southern New Hampshire had brought him in. He wasn't arrested, but it was protective custody. I said, that's all right. I says, he was brought in and maybe he was printed. So I called the PD and talked to the lieutenant. He said, no, we don't print PCs. I said, neither does my department, but I do. I print everybody that comes in. I want everybody in the computer. The state police, the guy in charge of identification, his name was Brian O'Hara. The guy was excellent. And we went back decades before DNA came in, or fingerprints with they called it AFIS, the automatic fingerprint system. Back then, I mean, you had a beautiful set of prints. You call Brian, anybody just out of the can that's doing B&Es, armed robberies. And that's how you did it. I mean, it was, it wasn't very successful. So one of the cases I remember, I'm trying to say it nicely, he would go to the bathroom in the houses that he broke into. And that was his calling card. Also, he left a beautiful handprint on a bottle of Rio wine he would bring with him. So I recovered the wine, and unfortunately, I recovered the poop. So I didn't know what to do with it. I said, what am I going to do with this? They got to be able to do something with the blood, or
something. There's got to be
something. And I remember talking to the ADA, and I goes, you must be able to do something with this. She goes, there's nothing. We don't know. So I sent it to the state police. This was funny. We get in a little bit of a pissing match. The trooper in the lab goes, he says, because in my report it said it was human poop. So he goes, what are you, a shit expert? I says, nah. He says, I thought you were. That's why I sent it to you. And so we didn't hit it off very well. But then he goes, how do you know? I says, he says dog poop. I goes, no, it isn't. He goes, you're an expert. I goes, no. But I says, you show me the dog that wiped his butt with the drapes. So both houses.
John,
he wiped.
John, I'm going to redirect you back to the case.
Go ahead.
Not that that's not an awesome story, but can you tell us about the disappearance of Charlie? What we know at this point, as far as the days leading up, or the day of his disappearance.
Well, he was manic, bipolar, and in my opinion, he was hallucinating. There was nobody chasing him, but he believed it. Obviously, what people that are paranoid believe. He He canceled his Facebook account, erased it, no emails, everything was gone. So again, it's a person that's manic, and they believe somebody's chasing him. That he was afraid for his family would be hurt by whoever he thought was chasing him.
John, I'm sorry. Did he have a history of mental health instability that would rise to that kind of behavior in his mania?
He was manic. He was off his medication.
Okay, so he had been diagnosed bipolar, had been medicated.
Yes.
And so did he often go off medications and experience these?
I don't believe he had in the past.
Okay, so this would have been like a first time of seeing him in a manic episode.
Right. The parents were very surprised, as well as the sister, and it was not like him, according to what they told me.
Did they have any reason to believe he was dabbling with substances that could have interfered with?
No, according to his friends that I interviewed, no way. He wasn't doing drugs. Okay. Other than his prescription drugs that he failed to take.
And he was a student at Dartmouth College, right?
Yep.
What year was he in, do you know?
I believe he was a senior. And he was on the tennis team, and everything seemed to be okay, but there were a couple episodes, according to his friend, that wasn't like Charlie. So he started that being manic maybe a couple days before he disappeared. They sat down to eat. It might have been a pizza place or something, and the guy was eating his food, and Charlie reached over and started eating it. The guy didn't say, have a piece or something. He just started eating his friend's food, and that was not like Charlie. He was a bright kid, a good athlete.
Can you, tell us about? He was a gamer, right? And he actually changed his name prior to his disappearance.
From what I recall, the parents weren't aware that he had changed his name, but they learned when he went missing to Neo Babson Maximus. So according to his friends, I know somebody said that he was world class, one of the best in the country in the game called Half-Life. Well, when I talked to a friend, they said, no, he was the best in the world at that game, Half-Life. There was nobody close to him.
Do you think that had played a role in his disappearance at all?
I do not. I do not believe that. I believe his manic state was what led him to break into a person's house. There was no intention of committing a crime, in my opinion. Going back to October 11th, the day before he disappeared, that was a Thursday, around 11 o'clock that night, he was observed running shirtless in the rain in the neighborhood of where the break was. Then Friday night, October 12th, around 3 a.m., he enters a house in the area on College Lane in Dartmouth. Second-story bedroom. So he must have climbed up the roof. Goes in the bedroom. There's a woman sleeping. Wakes up. She confronts them. She said he seemed confused and stated he was looking for his friend Mason, and that is actually his friend's name, Mason. He jumped off the second floor roof and ran to the woods. He had no shirt, no shoes, and it was October night. It was cold, so everything points to his manic state. He even apologized to the woman because he said, I got the wrong house. And he runs into the wooded area. The police are notified of the breaking and entering, and it goes out to be on the lookout for this person. They didn't know who it was at that point. And it's broadcasted to all the agencies. So they show up, the Dartmouth police with their canine, and from what I read in the police report, the dog was in there for about a half an hour, and sometimes the dogs don't want to work. And that's just how it was. And the dog was not doing much. And that was it.
Did they find anything of his?
No, not at that point. No. Not until Sunday. The following Sunday was October 14th. So it was the next day from when he broke in the house. They found his backpack behind a resident's house on Slocum Road, I believe it was. And his Charlie Allen Jr.'s information was in the backpack. So now they know who they're looking for. So that was Sunday. Not till the following Wednesday, his sneakers were found at the end of Schoolhouse Lane, which was, again, in the area. It's a big wooded area. It's like 4 to 6 square miles. So they find his sneakers. So the police...
Were the sneakers just kind of like thrown off, or were they side by side?
No, just nicely placed. So they had to be put there before he broke in the house 3 days earlier, or 2 days earlier. Because he didn't have any shoes on. He had no shirt on.
Gotcha.
So they were already placed. His backpack and his sneakers, in my opinion, they were already placed there prior to him breaking in.
And they were placed in two different areas. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
They
weren't together, right? There were two different.
No, they weren't
areas.
together. Two different areas, but not far from each other. Again, you got a person that's manic. So that was on the 17th when the sneakers were found. So on the 17th, 18th, and 19th, that would have been, I believe, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the police conduct an extensive 3-day search, not just in that area, but several wooded areas, and nothing turned up. Nothing was located.
So UMass Dartmouth must have a pretty good security team there, I would think.
Yeah,
right?
they did.
With surveillance. Was there anything that you found on the surveillance video, or was that anything available?
No, just his vehicle. They found his vehicle, and we went through that. After the police did, I went through it. And the police chief was excellent there, of the Dartmouth security. He gave us everything that we needed as well there, searches and so forth. So that was October 19th, and again, I didn't became involved until several months later, but not long after that. Again, the police, I think they said it was Saturday, October 13th, where Mr. Costa, the witness, believes he saw Charlie come out of a wooded area in that area, and with no shirt, he believed wasn't 100%. Was holding a soda, or a beer, who knows. But he was looking across the street where there was a tractor trailer parked. It was one of the hauling trailers that haul vehicles, new vehicles. And the operator of the vehicle, the truck, he came out of the cab and he was shaken out what appeared to be bedding. Probably slept there that night on the side of the road. I'm not sure. But the subject was looking across the road in the direction of the truck driver. So when I got to interview Mr. Costa back in April, the following April, he wasn't certain that it was the 13th that he saw that person at 7 a.m. when he was going to work. It could have been the 20th. So I pressured him somewhat to go back to work and look at the schedules and so forth to see if he can figure it out. It was very important. If it was the 13th, there's a good shot that he made it out of there with the trucker. But if it was the 20th, well, forget that scenario.
So the trucker said he gave this guy a ride?
We never found the trucker. Mr. Costa was in his vehicle.
Gotcha. That's the part I missed. I'm sorry.
And if it was the 13th, and he sees a person that he thinks might be Charlie Allen looking across at the truck driver like he was going to go talk to him. He looked like he got beaten up, the kid, and he was, in Mr. Costa's opinion, he might have been looking for some help from the truck driver. But he never actually saw him converse with the truck driver.
Okay.
But I would have felt 100% better, even if he told me that it was definitely the 13th. That could have been Charlie, because it was the 12th. He was in the woods and he could have made it out at 7 a.m., thinking people chasing him. He was in no hurry to get out there. But the 20th, it's just a different scenario. That means he didn't make it out. In my mind, if it was the 20th, then he's still in the swamp there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But God, if it was the 13th, he could have made it out, gotten a ride with the truckie, wherever he was from, and he could be a street person. Again, manic, bipolar. And, when you get brought in, if you're a street person, if you tell the police your name is George Washington, that's what they put down. Are they gonna, if they just get him for trespassing or vagrancy, they're probably not going to take his handprints, his fingerprints. I don't know what the situation is now, but the street people, we didn't have many in my town, but they didn't fingerprint him. They just brought him in for trespassing and let him sleep for a little while and kick him back out. So that's my hopes.
Has there been any sort of credible sightings of Charlie since that day?
Nothing credible. In my mind, I interviewed a guy in Providence that claimed it was him that knocked on his door, but no, I don't believe it. They mean well, a lot of people, but
What is the last time anyone in his circle interacted with him prior to this one that's home he broke into? Like, what were the days leading up in their interactions with him?
I'm sorry, I missed that. I'm not kidding.
What were the interactions with his family and inner circle like in the days leading up to that last incident?
Leading up to his disappearance?
Yeah.
Typical, nice family. Loved their son, and they were distraught.
But did he display anything that demonstrated something was off in his interactions with them leading up to that Saturday?
No. There was a surprise. Even after he went missing, I mean, the father left his cell phone open, hoping he would call for a year or two. His credit card, he left that open to the son had the access to his credit card, and nothing was ever used. His cell phone, wallet, keys were never located. They tried pinging his phone and so forth. He was bright enough that he could, if he thought people were following him, he was going to make it difficult.
Do we know if he had any money with him?
I don't believe he did. I don't believe he had anything. So in my opinion, like I said, was so important for Mr. Costa to figure out if it was the 13th or the 20th. If it was the 13th, I'd be looking at he made it out of there, and that's another thing. The police said he had no arrests, but I did find fingerprints in southern New Hampshire location. Because talked to the detective, he says, although we don't print PCs, I do. And I goes, I do as well. I said, you have them? He goes, yes. So I got them to hand carry the prints down to Dartmouth, and they sent it to Namus, so he would be in the system, his fingerprints. And I had Mr. Allen get his dental records to send in as well. But on the other side of this, if nobody checks it, if the police don't check if they have a person that's out in the street, if it's a street person, there's so many, like if it was California or something, or Texas, are they're gonna check them, or are they just gonna bury him? Are they gonna check him, see if he's a missing person? I don't know. That's my hopes is they do. Or if they arrest them, if somebody committed a major crime, if he does a robbery or something, they're going to fingerprint him, and they're probably going to check him in the system and see if he's wanted. But if just for vagrancy or trespassing, I don't know if they do that, because we didn't have that in my town. I'm not familiar with it.
I would also think, I don't know, well, even 2007, but definitely now, picking up for vagrancy is more of a prompt to check if there's anything else going on. So, but again, we're living in different times now, for sure.
Right. It depends on the person, like I said before. Some guys go the extra mile, others don't.
Yep.
So we do have a comment in here. What was both gamer tags' names again? Which
I'm sorry.
I know he changed his name to Neo Babson Maximus.
Correct.
Was that his gamer tag too?
I believe it was.
And Babson is his mother's side, I think, family, right?
Yeah.
And then Neo is from The Matrix.
Right.
And Maximus, where's that from? From the Gladiator movie?
Mm-hmm.
So I've read a couple different articles on this case, and then also you were on the show Disappeared to cover this case. There's some people talk about Scientology. Was that something he was getting involved in that we're aware of?
I'm not aware of that. I don't think that had anything to do with anything. The bottom line is he was bipolar and manic and hallucinating, in my opinion. And the bottom line is people claim that they might have seen him and so forth. There was areas such as behind Walmart where there were some people living in the woods. They claimed they might have seen him there, but the police checked all that, and it was fruitless. You get a ton of calls. I mean, you find a body or you have a homicide or something, and trying to make an identification. You put it on the 11 o'clock news, and the next 3 hours you're going to get calls from everybody. You might get 100 calls, and you weed them out the best you can. But they mean well. You get a couple nut jobs here and there, but most of the people mean well, and they're not always accurate.
So he really thought someone was after him. I assume you checked like phone records and social circle, and you have not found any evidence of that at all.
Nothing. The police did all the checking with the cell phones, and again, he erased all his emails and so forth. It's typical paranoia.
Is that, though, how we're coming to this conclusion based on the erasure of the emails and stuff, or were there reports? That's the part that I feel like I'm missing. Are there reports by him to loved ones or other people that he felt people were after him?
There's no indication of any of that.
So any of him even saying that he felt that way?
He felt that way, yes. But there was no indication that it was true.
What I'm curious about is, how do we know he felt that way? Who did he disclose that to? And
his friends.
Okay. His friends reported that. Okay.
Well, it basically was his sister.
Okay.
When the last phone conversation she had with him, and he said, "Stay with Dad," or something to that effect. Dad will protect you, and they're after me, and but his sister said it was not him.
Gotcha.
So again, he's off his medication, and he went to levels that he's never been before. It wasn't something that he normally did.
I get a comment here from Patty Blackstone. She says, no social media presence. What about his gaming circles? I'm sure games are still occurring. Any players exhibiting his level of skill, gaming is habitual, he could still be interacting in said arena with a different username.
They checked all that. His friends that were involved in the gaming world with him, they were very helpful too, checking to see if they could track him down. There's nothing. There's nothing there.
And I would also imagine, though, if there's an alternative identity that's been taken on at some point, a loved one or someone in his circle is going to be reached out to.
You would think so.
Yeah, even if he was trying to conceal something or stay away from certain people, there's always a moment of mishap where you miss loved ones. You reach out, you check to see if they're okay, and I don't know, but there's nothing, as you're saying, that's indicating that. Again,
his state of mind that he believes his family is in danger as well as himself. He did everything to erase himself from society, okay, before he went missing. And if he wants to stay hidden, he's going to stay hidden. He's very bright. He could do it very easily. You become a street person, change your name to George Washington, and you have no IDs. The only thing they have to go by is your fingerprints.
For sure. But then I guess what I'm saying is, like, asking about a gaming identity or a new gamer identity, if he's living in a street life, there's probably a good chance that he's not sustaining the ability to play games and be gaming because
that's how I feel.
Unstable lifestyle.
That's how I feel.
How did UMass Dartmouth handle this? Was this something that they, all hands on deck and was very vocal and trying to help with it, or is it something they kind of maybe wanted to cover up and make light of because they're worried about, the students coming in?
I dealt with the police chief, and he was excellent, and he couldn't express enough that he wanted to help. Anything I can do, anything you need, and they did send guys out and they did locate his vehicle. He was good. He wanted to solve the case as well. They did a lot of searching on the property. They found some sets of keys, but none of them were his. Maybe a briefcase or two, but again, nothing that went back to Charlie. So,
were teachers interviewed at all?
I'm sorry.
Were teachers interviewed at all, like, to get a sense of, like, how he was presenting in class?
He wasn't going to class, I believe. The last few days, he wasn't going to class. So his manic state began, in my opinion. Again, he's off his medication, so I don't know if he was ever offered before, but Dad told me that he never had experienced anything like that with him. So,
John, are you aware of there was a partial skull found on the Dartmouth beach back in 2021? Have they ever done DNA on that?
What was it?
There's a partial skull on the beach in Dartmouth.
Yeah, it was not. I saw that, and I contacted people, and they said it was not Charlie.
Okay.
So whether or not they know whose skull it was, I got excited. I says, this could be him. This could be it. And thank God it wasn't. Yeah.
Did anyone question the friend Mason that he identified he was looking for? If he did have the friend, factually?
I'm having a bad time hearing, but
I'm sorry. I'll sit forward. I think it's because I'm back. Sorry.
You gotta move closer to your mic.
Did they question the Mason friend that?
Yeah.
Okay, and what did he have to say? Was he confused by him looking for him, or
he was confused about Charlie's state? Other than the fact that he's the one that Charlie started eating his food the day before he went missing. That was not like Charlie to do that.
Okay.
So he was in his manic state then.
Interesting. It's tragic to have this be the first acute episode of mania for him to go through and not have, because the family and friends don't have a history. They don't have anything to go by that would help them understand behavior patterns as they're starting or as his symptoms are increasing.
He was a great tennis player. He had talked about going pro and the gaming. So He was a very bright person and athletic. And like I said, if he thought people were after him, even if they're not, he's going to make it very difficult to locate him. My thing that I can't get it out of my mind is Mr. Costa. Was it the 13th or the 20th, Mr. Costa? Big difference. If it was the 13th, I'd get another search together and go back in. You know, if it's the 20th, then I'd be looking that he hits the ride and he's out there somewhere. Because between us and the state police and the Dartmouth police, we had over 500 or 600 people searching, professional searchers in most cases.
Wow.
And nothing was found. You know, even if it was bones, you would have still found the clothing, the keys, the cell phone. Nothing. I just wish I knew. What date. Like I said, if it was the 13th, I would say that he made it out of there and he's probably a street person somewhere. That's my hopes. And it'll be wonderful, like you mentioned, if someday that I mentioned this in another broadcast, that Charlie Allen's dad answers the door and Charlie standing there and says, I want to come home.
Yeah.
You know, that the demons are gone.
That'd be incredible.
Well, yeah. And as a woman who's worked with people who are living with persistent mental illness and are unhoused,
sure,
it's definitely a rare occurrence that they will go home on their own, motivation, because there's much hurt and brokenness that's taken place in that life. Yeah.
Some event just got them to get back in reality.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a long time. So my hopes is that he gets arrested for something and they check his fingerprints.
So what happens, like, say if he's brought in protective custody, living as a street person, does anything, I guess not, because if he wouldn't give his actual name, then they can't really flag.
They don't go by your name. If you got no ID on you, they're going to go by your fingerprints.
Yeah.
Okay, you can say whatever you want. I know Boston, when I had a couple cases in there, they said, no, we don't go by the name. They go by fingerprints in the cities. Protective custody, they're probably not going to check them. They're busy. The street people, there's tons of them, unless they commit a crime. And then, it's imperative that they run their prints, because his prints are in there. If he gets grabbed for something, they'll know he's a wanted person.
Yeah.
So I guess when you say protective custody, are you talking like in the legal system protective custody? Because I'm thinking brought into a hospital setting by police officers.
No, as far as the police have the right to bring somebody in for protective custody if they've been drinking too much and they may be belligerent or something. So instead of arresting them for disorderly, you don't want to give them a criminal record just for that, depending on how bad he is. If they're just drunk and they're lying in the street, we'll bring them in for protective custody. He sleeps for 8 hours and let him go.
Okay, so you're talking like a drunk tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not an arrest legally.
Okay, because I'm thinking when I talk in my field with protective custody type stuff, it's also being brought to the hospital because you're deemed unsafe and need an assessment. So I'm wondering if that were to ever happen, where he was brought to be assessed for his mental health stability, would that anything in their systems flag? Probably not. Like he could have been.
It depends. If it was a town or something, they probably would. But in the city, when they're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of them, they have to go answer the more serious calls.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to play around with some drunk on the street. They're going to go answer the robberies and everything else. They're short-handed. I mean, a detective, you might have, I don't know what in the cities, but in the towns, 20, 30,000 people, you could have 20, 30, 40 cases at any given time on your desk. You're working them. And there's more coming in every day. So the ones you work on until the evidence, the witnesses stop. You put it on the other side of your desk. It's suspended until more information comes in and you can work on it. So, the only closed cases are the ones that end up going to court, going to trial, and they're found guilty or not guilty. So that's a closed case. You got open cases. You don't have enough information, so it's open. Again, suspended. You ran out of road. There's nowhere else to go with it, so you're suspended. And at some point, it becomes a cold case. Right. So it's not always the police that made a mistake on a cold case. It's just you don't have enough evidence to go forward. You might have a good idea who did it, but you can't prove it. And what you have to be aware of is the statute of limitations. Some cases are 10 years, some cases are 15. Some cases forever, like a rape of a child and so forth, and a homicide. There is no statute of limitation on a homicide. And that's why the DAs don't want to take a chance. A case is 30 years old. If they have a little teeny bit of DNA and they figure that they're waiting. And I always argue with them and say, you're waiting for what? It's 30 years. The parents are going to go to their grave not knowing. And like I told you earlier, if that was my kid, I'd say, go for it. I don't want to die without knowing who killed my son or daughter. But that's what they do. They with the homicide, they don't have a lot of DNA. They wait.
Karen says, this is so crazy. People don't just disappear, and yet there's so many missing people. Yeah. I mean, it's all over.
Well, many of them are homicides. You're right. People don't just disappear. Charlie is one of them that did. He could have died of the elements. He could have died of a suicide. But after 600 people searched that area and we found nothing, no evidence whatsoever, it makes you wonder, did he make it out? Did he make it into another area and died of, the elements or commit suicide? Right. You would think, now this is October, it's hunting season. October, November, December. Nothing turned up. A lot of wooded area, a lot of hunters.
Any predators in that area that would be considered a risk to him?
There's some. We found one bone that they thought could have been a human bone, but that was another story. On our search, the medical examiner, it was a holiday weekend. She was on call, and she was not happy that we called her out to look at a bone. The guy that found the bone happened to be Charlie's cousin.
Oh. And
I looked at it and I said, I'm no expert on bones, but I was a hunter and it looks like a deer bone to me. It's too short. I'm looking at it and I'm looking at my femur bone and looking at how short this was. There was a 5-year-old kid maybe, it would be that short, but not a 20-year-old guy.
Right.
So the medical examiner, she comes up, looks at it. She looks at me. She cursed something, and she said, of course it's not a human bone. It's a deer bone. I said, well, we're not experts on that. But the guy, he called you in good faith, so it had to be checked out. But that was it. There was nothing. Like I said, we found a bunch of handguns buried in the woods, not related. Somebody backed in there and just buried them. They probably didn't want them in their house. Maybe a wife that lost her husband or something that had all his handguns and didn't know what to do with them, and they buried them in the woods. The state police took them and they checked them see if they were involved in any crimes and so forth, but nothing.
So with you talking about the bones, I want to ask you something with your background. So there's another case that we've covered probably about 2 years ago now. This guy loses his daughter. They suspect the daughter's boyfriend killed her. They did find her remains. So where they find their remains, they collected the bones and they went off. So he went there to try to set up a memorial. And he started finding more and more bones, her bones everywhere. Is that typical for police not to do a thorough search? Like it was in the same...
No, they dropped the ball on that one. What state was that?
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, they dropped the ball on that one. If that was Massachusetts, I can speak for them because I worked with them, especially in Middlesex County. They'd have the lab team out there. They would be digging in. They'd have the screening every bit of earth.
Yeah, I was blown away by, and he's posted on his social media him finding him and stuff. It's awful. It's more than just one little bone too. It's a lot.
That's too bad.
So, I mean, if they left the bones there, they also left evidence there as well, other than the bones. DNA. I went to the FBI school for fingerprints, identification, and so forth. And we had an instructor named Charlie Walsh, great guy. He said, if you can't get the fingerprint off the wall, you take the wall. And he would. I mean, you don't leave the evidence behind. If you think it's going to be contaminated or something, just cut the whole wall out. And that's what you have to do. You can't leave it there. Mm-hmm. Up in Maine and New Hampshire and the cold climates, a big issue is tire tracks and footprints in the snow, especially if it's snowing out or it's going to rain. Well, you have to know how to preserve that and get them up as quick as you can before they're contaminated or gone altogether. So you put a cardboard box over it and you get some plaster of Paris, and you want to maintain that. And I've had homicides before where the ambulance pulled up and they destroyed it. They ruined all the footprints and everything. So it depends on the detective. That's where the cases are lost, right there. Preserving the scene.
Yeah. I'm no by no means anti-police. In fact, as I told you before we started, that's what I went to school for. I wanted to be a police officer, but didn't get that far. I'm not anti-police at all, but it's just like the cashier at Burger King. You're gonna have some really good ones. You're gonna have some not so good ones. Right. So it's just like any profession.
Yep, that's how it is. They're not robots.
I will say though, the guy that's not so good at flipping the burger isn't going to not really change a person's life.
No, you're right.
I think to some extent, like there has to be a higher standard for a police officer or someone is in a position to really change somebody's life.
That's the same as a doctor or an attorney or a nurse. Yes, you have to have a higher standard, but it's not always the case.
Yeah.
Just not always the case. Our training was unbelievable in Middlesex. I mean, if anybody did a bad job, it's because they were lazy. We all had the same training. I had over 5,000 cases, investigations in the 27 years there. And every detective with 20 years, 30 years on the job, we all had the same. You average about 200 cases a year, 200 investigations. So, not that I had more than anybody else, we all had the same training, whether it was the FBI, state police, the DA's office. We had great training.
Shelley Carson says, wish he could take over Stephanie's case. So Stephanie Damron's a 13-year-old girl that disappeared from New Sweden, Maine. Last seen leaving her parents' house. She was upset, walked into the woods, and never seen again. But there's a lot of information on that case.
Again, it all depends on the evidence. In my opinion, there's always evidence. It's there. You gotta dig. You gotta find it. And when they try to erase the evidence, guess what? They leave new evidence. When they try to cover up a scene, they're leaving more evidence. So you've got to be diligent and take your time and be a pain in the ass, like I am, and no stone unturned. That's how you have to be. You don't stop after 8 hours. Go home. My mind doesn't stop. My mind still goes in cases I had 30, 40 years ago.
Wow. Yeah, maybe sometime I'll send you some information on the Ayla Reynolds case from Waterville, Maine. It's obviously signs of, her blood in the house. Somebody covered it up, cleaned up the mess. she's missing, and she's, no one's been charged with her disappearance.
Well, I'll guarantee you the police have a good idea who did it. Because if you're going to clean up the scene, it's not some random guy that broke in. He don't care.
Right.
Okay? Somebody close to her.
There was 3, maybe 4 adults in the house that night that
Yep.
she disappeared. So
Yeah, there you go.
I think they just can't pin it on one person. I think that's the holdup.
That's what it is. And again, it comes back to evidence. DNA. 50 years ago, they didn't have it. Sometimes we collected it. We didn't know what we were going to do with it, but we collected it. And sometimes you get a hit 10 years, 20 years later. They weren't trained in that. And that's another thing. A lot of these towns, they don't have the training. They might go to the state police and take a few classes or something, but it depends on who's training you too.
Right.
You could have a guy doing the training that's a teacher, not a doer. I'll take the guy that's been in the street for 30 years. That's the guy that I want to learn from.
Exactly. So, John, what can viewers do to help with this case, if there's anything at all?
I've been waiting for, almost 20 years for something to pop up. We did everything we could. We searched shelters in Rhode Island, Mass, New Hampshire, Texas, Maine, California. We sent in the dental records and the fingerprints to Namus in case he gets stopped. The only other thing to do is another search. But, how many times do you search the same area,
Mm-hmm.
Again, I would be pushing for a new search. If Mr. Costa called me and he said, guess what? I just found out it was October 13th that I saw that person. And I'd be on the phone calling up the guys I know to start another search. He could have made it out of that area into another area. It's a big town, Dartmouth, and a lot of woods, a lot of swamp.
What is the possibility that he would have run into vagrants or, unsafe people that he just by chance and took his life and hid the body?
Well, they wouldn't have had ID on him. He had no identification, so the police would have checked his fingerprints.
I'm saying, what are the chances that there were vagrants in that wooded area living like an encampment of unhoused people that were not kind and took his life and hid that? Like, is there history of unhoused encampments in those areas that would?
No, not where he went missing.
Okay.
There was behind Walmart, which was a distance away. And the only reason why they checked that area was that somebody said they saw somebody that looked like him.
Gotcha.
But, it wasn't him.
It actually reminds me of a case from Maine, Jeremy Alex, about the same age. He went into some kind of episode, ran around, and then eventually ran off into the woods, and he's yet to be found. So it's weird that the story is almost the same story.
They didn't find him either?
No.
Yeah, it's very odd. We've had plenty where you find them, they either committed suicide or most of them they committed suicide. Foul play? No, not in a missing person like this.
All right, John, is there anything you want to say before we wrap up tonight?
Just that I feel bad. Charlie's mother passed. His mother Ann. Dad's still, it haunts him every day. I know that. I just hope something else comes in that I can work on. Just I don't know where else to go with it at this point.
Right. And I appreciate you reaching out to us. How did you find our podcast? You just happened to.
I'm sorry.
How did you find our podcast?
I'm always interested in missing people. A lot of times I offer my services pro bono, and I've had people contact me, and I worked on it with the state police and the DAs and so forth in Mass, where I knew them, and they would let me in. You know, let me look at the reports and stuff. Couldn't take them, but I didn't want to take them. I just want to read them.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people would call me if their child committed suicide. They don't want to believe it, and I would meet with the state police and look at the reports and stuff. And I have never had one that was not. When the state police said it was a suicide, it was.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to convince the parents. Sometimes they're not convinced. My child wouldn't do that, but I said
it's a hard reality to come to.
It is
for any loved one, yeah.
Absolutely, and that's the same reality that hit the Allens. They can't believe that he went that far off.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know. I mean, this people that work with people like this that are off their medication, they see it all the time. We used to see it in the police department. The people that are off their medication, usually women, middle-aged, off their medication. Yes, you better be careful, Danielle.
Trust me.
No. But for some reason, there was a lot of women. Not too many men. They were just jerks. But if the women were off their medication, I heard one woman. I never heard so many swears. I couldn't even imagine. The next day, she was the sweetest little woman.
Mm-hmm.
Off their medication. So
it is very difficult to walk.
We feel bad for them.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I do somewhat for a living. I mean, it's part of what I do is working with people who have persistent mental illness. And so this is why I asked questions about patterns beforehand, and if he'd had any acute episodes before, that they could see this coming, because
he was living in his vehicle. Okay, so they didn't get to see him often. For a week or two before, he could have been doing this manic episode. Could have started a week or two before.
How long was he living in his car?
They're not sure. He had an apartment, I believe, in Rhode Island, but they never saw him there.
All right. So, I mean, that in itself is a strange behavior pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was sleeping in his vehicle on the campus. And he wasn't going to classes. So he would already start at the manic stage. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I feel so bad. I don't know where else to go with it. And like I said, I would be happy to conduct another search if I knew, if I had some more evidence where he might be.
Yeah.
Well,
we appreciate.
Sorry, Travis, to have the heart for it still. I think that's something that's so wonderful about what Travis and Jeff are doing, is that there's heart there and compassion for someone who's been forgotten otherwise.
I commented on your podcast because this is what needs to be done. And that's one thing I always tell the parents, keep it in the media. Okay. And a lot of times we put the DA right on the spot in the media that you want another investigation and why isn't this happening, and they come around, but then sometimes the squeaky wheel gets greased. Mm-hmm. If you say nothing, I mean, nobody's going to jump on it to help you.
Right.
Yep.
You got to put pressure on them, and this is a good way of doing it with the podcast and social media.
Yeah. Well, John, thank you so much for joining us. And again, thank you for everything you're doing to help find missing people and just helping families.
Yes, thank you. Very nice to meet you.
So thank you, everyone, for watching. Please join us again next week. It'll be, I believe, Wednesday night next week, because Thursday I have a meeting I have to be at. So.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, John. Have a good night.
You too.
Good night, everyone.
Taylor Williams led investigators to Alabama this week.
So we have some breaking news from Florida. An arrest has been made in
Tonight,
connection.
after years of agony, a glimmer of hope for the family.
Investigators spent hours searching through this house off Pennsylvania Avenue.
What could be a major development in the search for missing Alabama teenager.
Tonight, a stunning twist in the search for Taylor.
Somebody out there knows something. They want to lay him to rest their way, not by somebody else's way.